What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. It's Sunday, May 25th, and we are here to discuss yesterday's afternoon's 1-0 defeat against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Just a reminder that each episode of Tide Talk is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. If you're watching this, please hit that thumbs up button as well, as it helps the YouTube algorithm show Tide Talk to more people. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you're listening here, we'd really appreciate it if you left us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our podcast. One last plug, if you're not already on the RIFC Club Collector app, definitely check that out. It's a fun and free way to have some extra fun watching the team. Once you're there, enter code TIDETALK25 to get an exclusive pack to add to your collection. I'll be your host tonight, Ryan, and I am here with our trusty, Tide Talk utility player, Andrew Quadros. Andrew, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. Another podcast. I feel like I'm on a streak though of joining after a disappointing result, so I'm like the Tide Talk Grim Reaper.
I feel like Matt just keeps throwing you in when he doesn't want to talk about a bad one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how's your Memorial Day going?
It's been good. Had my daughter's birthday party today. Has a family over. Cracked a few bottles of wine, some beer. It was good.
Ooh, and Scott even has a bank holiday as well. So this is fun. Yeah, no, for all you out there, we did do a poll of, do you guys want it tonight? Do you want it tomorrow? So I need all the sickos absolutely in the chat tonight. We have a lot to talk about, and you all wanted it tonight. So we got to all do this. And I did forget the key part of the intro here, everybody. So please cozy up. Let's crack a beer and let's dive into this one. Yeah, we're starting off as hot as Rhode FC was last night. But Andrew, as we just start to dive into this one. I know we always start at the kind of lead up to the match and the tailgate. How is it being back after, we had like 3 matches in basically a week at Centerville Bank Stadium. Then we were gone for a little bit, but how did it feel to be back in the parking lot in M7?
Yeah, it felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
After having all those games in a row. So to be back, seeing the group was great again. The weather for pretty much every game, I think so far has not cooperated. I think we've seen some rain, or at least the threat of rain, across all the different games that we've had. So no different throughout this one, really throughout the entire thing. When I looked at the forecast the night before, I think the rain was supposed to stop by like noon. So I really wasn't fully prepared to deal with the rain, but didn't stop the crew that was tailgating. Still a lot of people that showed up, filled out that Defiance lot. It's good to see everybody, talk to everybody, and was another fun atmosphere leading up to the game. So it's been fun. I mean, definitely different than Bern, different type of environment than we had at Bryant, but still a great time.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed about this one is I think people we're starting to get better about like getting closer together. I know that was a big thing. People are like, oh, some people are on the far end of the parking lot, some people are closer. Whereas at Bryant, like we were all very tight together. I think we're starting to find like the different tricks to all be closer, which is good.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we were at Bryant, we talked a lot about it last year. It almost felt like they undersold the prepaid lot in terms of the number of spaces available relative to how many spots. So like no matter what time I showed up last year, I knew that I was going to park in the same general area and be really close to the tailgate. This time I pulled in, I want to say it was around like 2:15, so 2 hours before kickoff, and there was like some anxiety of where are they going to make me park, because that first section does fill up relatively quickly, and I know that there's been some confusion on where they divert people. So I think the fact that lot is so big and people are getting sent to different directions definitely adds a little bit of difficulty. Even just like stuff that you're bringing, right? Stuff that you want to tailgate, the chairs, soccer ball, the cooler, all that. And then when the march is about to start, and now you need to make a run back to the car. Like I was in that lot, but you still have to plan for all this stuff. So we're ending it out. We're figuring it out, but you do have to, it does feel like you have to get there a little bit sooner to make sure that you're actually near the tailgate if you want to be able to have a close walk over.
Yeah, I think my biggest, I want to say disappointment, but the sad part about yesterday was Sarah couldn't be there with her Jello shots. I was definitely looking forward to those, and unfortunately they were not there. But Sarah, you were missed as always. But yeah, it was an interesting day for me. I was with some friends, so I was in the Defiance lot for a bit, went over, hung out with them, and they tailgated on the other side of M7 for a little bit, and then I took the march to the match, and then took the game in with them. So yeah, interesting one. I think the rain definitely, I don't know if I'd say scared a few people away. I think it looked more empty than it was because people were kind of like hiding in the concourse. Which I think was, evident when you looked around, but then you started walking around, the lines were just as long, and, everything was going on. So, definitely interesting here. But, as we dive into the match itself, we do have the lineup from Coach Connor Smith, which I'll bring up right now. Pretty standard for what we've been seeing. We had Koke Vegas in net. We had Aldair Sanchez on the left with Mabika and Snowman in the middle, Frank on the right. We had Clay Holstad, Zachary Harival, and Maxi Rodriguez in the midfield with Quizera, Dikwa, and Fuson up front. Any surprises here?
The surprise for me came in the fact that there was no rotation, and I know that we had a week off since our last game, which is the first, the most amount of time that we've had off in a while. But it was the exact same starting lineup and the exact same bench that we saw a week ago. And I thought that there would be a little bit more rotation. And then I do recall back to last year where when we did have a good result, we tended to roll out the exact same lineup. I wasn't with you guys last week when you were talking about it with Timmy, but I wasn't super impressed by last week's performance, despite the fact that we won 3-0. Like I still felt like the same issues that we're going to talk about here, they were present last week. They were present.
It's almost like 3 goals that all are correctly scored at like a 5% or less chance of like going in are all actually not reliably ways to score goals.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that part later.
So all that said, it doesn't, in retrospect, after seeing the lineup, it doesn't surprise me that he rolled out the exact same lineup, but because we still haven't really found our groove, regardless of what the scoreline was last week, I thought there might be a little bit more tweaking or mixing and matching, particularly on the defensive line as they're trying to figure out what the best defensive center back pairing is. I thought Rio might get back in the lineup. I think that was the big one.
So I was going to ask you that. Jason in the chat has, why no Rio?
Yeah, that was outside of just not having any rotation or any differences from last week. I just assumed that Rio was going to get reinserted into the lineup. So I was surprised to see Stillman's name still out there. Frank's still on the right. That's the really only major surprise for me. And I think it was good to see him enter the game later on, but I would have liked to see him started.
Yeah, I mean, any surprise that Amos isn't on the starting list here? I know he had a pretty good run of games. I don't think anyone would have said he put a foot wrong at any point. Do you think he would have had a argument for inclusion at this point?
I think they all do. It's one of my biggest issues with this team is that we don't have a lot of, at least in the midfield and the defenders, a lot of like significant underperformers, but there's really no one that stood out that's really elevated this team. So Amos has been great, but he's been great as a workhorse and chasing people down and making himself available and doing those things. But has he really led to any goals? And you can make the argument pretty much across the midfield outside of Maxi and Clay, right? I mean, Harival scored a great goal last week, but like, has he been someone that stood out? Has Amos been someone that stood out? I don't think Brito stood out despite the great goal that he had at Monterrey. So like, all of these different guys, I think they all have an argument for inclusion, but that's only because there's no one that's really grabbed the starting position and really secured it for their own outside of Clay and Maxi.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about this lineup that Matt Hands shockingly is putting out there?
I like it. I mean, I'm still unsure on the Yao thing, but assuming that he's not at full health, and probably even if he is at full health, I think that's our strongest lineup. I think it gets the best.
Just for those on the podcast, Matt Hands had Sanchez, Frank, Mabika, and Rio from left to right.
So Sanchez, I think, deserves to be in there, and Mabika deserves to be in there. I think both of them have really secured their starting spots. Rio,
quite frankly, I think Rio has too, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and I think it's going very close. I think we just assumed last week that the slate of games that they have that he was just getting rested. So I assume he was going to re-enter the lineup now, but I do think he deserves to be out there. Stillman is weird in terms of his performances. Like he's rated really highly. Like I think he does well on Fat Mob. He does well on Club Collector. I think he racks up a lot of stats, and he makes some really good plays, but he also makes some other plays where you're just like, what's going on there? And it just feels like he's kind of middle. Like he's not great. He's not bad. And I think that Rio brings a little bit more dynamicism to the role. And then having Frank there to be able to contribute on free kicks and corner kicks, and then his ability to carry the ball, even from that center back position. I do think that it's a bit more dynamic when Rio's in the lineup than when Stillman's in the lineup. And what they need right now is dynamic play, is creativity. I just think Rio brings it more. So I'd rather have seen him in the lineup than Stillman.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, it is funny that we are focusing so much on that back line, where we'll get into this game and probably what is the kind of the main takeaways here. And I don't know if the back line has anything to do with that. I just want to shout out really quick. Thank you, Tim Sheldon, for bringing this up. Thank you, all of you who have been subscribing to Tide Talk. We passed 300 subscribers this past week. Quite frankly, like shocking, surprising. I joke with the Tide Talk guys, like when we're doing thank you all for subscribing, for listening. We really appreciate it and couldn't do it without you all. So Yeah, I don't know, Andrew. As we dive into the beginning of this game, it felt pretty much like Rhode Island FC was carrying the day for a long part of it. I mean, I felt like the ball was constantly kind of over the halfway line onto their side. Dare I say the FT word out loud? But yeah, I felt like we were kind of dominant there. Our possession was really high. We were really carrying the day. Again, similar problems that we've seen so far, where the ball would get to kind of the final third. Like we were doing really well in the middle third, and in the final third, it just was like we had nothing there. But again, we were building that pressure up. It felt like maybe we could, if something was going to go one team's way, it might be us.
Yes. I'd also explain. I'd say that the Tampa game was largely like that. I'd say, well, I think Tampa in the first half probably outplayed us, but we had spells where we were able to kind of, and then that largely came from having the lead. But we had periods where it felt like we had the possession and we were able to hold on to the ball and try to find something. The same thing happened with Birmingham. The same thing happened with Monterey Bay. The same thing happened with San Antonio. Like all of these games, we are possessing the ball really well. And it harkens back to me to last year where we spent the first third of the season looking for some sort of offensive identity because we couldn't get anything going.
Yep.
The one thing that we did have was possession. And when things started to turn for us offensively, when we started to be able to create more and score more goals, we were ceding possession. And I think kind of even talked about that at some point last year is like we preferred to play a possession game, but where they found their groove was being able to play more direct, not quite counterattacking, but just like quick moving ball, like let the other team take it to us. We're positioned well defensively with our midfielders, with our wing backs, get the ball and go. And we did really well with that. And now that we're back into this possession heavy based game, it feels like we're back into the same issues that we experienced in the early part of last year, where we just can't figure out what to do with it. So all that possession to me is almost useless because they've done nothing with it in the final third. Like it's not like they're creating some chances and we're just having some bad luck and they're not going in. We're creating nothing. It's once we get into the final third, everything stops and they can't figure out what to do.
Yeah. So I'll just say at this point, there are going to be slides on this episode, and it is going to get a little bit into what Andrew was just talking about, because I am very fascinated by this. We, at one point, if you've been a long-term follower of the show, I've done some slides on what we call the changing tides of Kano ball. And that was exactly it. One of the big takeaways was, as we started this last season, we were a big possession-based team. We kind of started to see that. We actually started to see results go our way. What's the correlation, causation there? I don't know if we ever figured it out fully, but the team figured it out, which is all that really mattered. And I think we're really going to dig into this a bit more. But unfortunately, the first goal of this match did go the Riverhounds' way, and the only goal of this one, which I will play now. I would say very convenient for the shitty thing that we have to deal with on this podcast platform when there's only one goal, because you have to bring up the one video. So here it is, everybody.
Again, towards the back stick, it's Mabika. Again, tough to get him past him. Oh, and it comes back in! All the way in it goes! The Hounds take the lead on a snapshot back in. And with just 8 minutes left in the half, Pittsburgh deservedly.
Yuck is what I'll say there. Andrew, what do you think about that one?
It was a weird one in the stadium. And I was talking about it earlier today with my brother-in-law. It almost felt like no one really knew if it went in, or like the players didn't really know. They were kind of looking around. Or like there was a hush over the stadium where like it just happened really quickly, and it wasn't a very powerful shot. It just kind of skimmed in there, in perfect placement. So in real time, I wasn't quite sure what happened. Rewatching it now, I think they did what they needed to in terms of clearing out that first cross in from the corner kick. I think that they did well to, as soon as the ball was cleared, to start moving up and trying to get out of the box. But he sent it in really quickly. So I do think, and I watched this over and over again because I did hear some people last night complaining about, could Stoneham have done more there, or could he have rushed out? I do think.
Was this on the 4-hour call corner?
On the 4-hour space last night, yeah. And I watched it over, and I do think Stoneman was a little slow to rush over and close down that space, but I don't know that he would have gotten there anyway. I think it was just a very quick trigger that was perfectly placed. So, I mean, that's the danger that you have when you're trying to defend those types of kicks. And I think that it was just a really good play by Pittsburgh there. I think Stoneman could have done a little bit more, but I don't know that it would have made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into some questions that people have in the chat here, which are really good. Just quickly, it's an odd one. I think it's unfortunately a very similar goal that we've given up this season. We'll get into this more again later in the slides. Our defense has been really good this season. Like, we've been solid. But the goals we've given up have been just very annoying and like very like visible. And a part of that is because we're not scoring many goals. So any goal we give up is very visible. But the weird one about this is like Stoneman does this weird jump at the end, as if the guy is gonna like rocket it off his back, and like
Yeah.
I think that allows him to not block the shot. But then also there's just like 5 RIFC players in a cluster in front of it that are all just blocking Koke's view, and then like you can tell by his reaction, he just is like, "Oh, the ball's there." Like he just had no clue that that was even coming in. But yeah, as we go in here, we have Robert Donald here. How did Pittsburgh score that goal? Was Koke screened on the shot? He didn't move. I mean, you have to say absolutely.
I think so. I mean, the shitty part about watching these goals on the broadcast is that you don't get many angles. By many,
Nope.
you probably get one. If you're lucky, you get two. So it's really hard to get a full sense of what was happening unless you were in a position within the stadium to be able to see a better angle of it. So I still can't really tell. But given the cluster of players that you were talking about, my guess, like Koke didn't move at all, and
Yep.
the shot was a quick trigger, but it wasn't a blast of a shot. He should have had enough time to go and get it, which tells me he probably just didn't see the ball come in until it was way too late.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think Jason has an interesting take here about nobody moved. Like, I struggle with that one because I think you do see Stoneman closing him out, but he's the only person. Everyone else is kind of just walking up, and there's no Pittsburgh player around that kind of mass of RIFC players. At least 5 of them that were all together. So
There was
just
I'd push back on it a little bit. I do think that they
Okay.
moved off, like when the clearance from Abika happened. I do think that you can see everybody starting to move as you're supposed to, right? You're supposed to clear the box whenever the ball gets cleared on that initial clearance. I just don't think it was fast enough. And again, Stoneman, just given the fact that there was nobody there to close him down, there was no urgency. And we've talked about that a lot with some of the other players on defense, but it's really, I mean, a lot of the central defenders operate that way where there's no urgency. There was a play earlier in the half, and I don't want to keep shitting on Frank because I do think he's largely been good, but there was a play where a Pittsburgh player was basically taking the space.
Wait, when you say that out loud, how quick? Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 until Matt's in the chat, or
Yeah, exactly. He's going to appear. But Frank basically he gave the guy way too much space. The guy was stepping up to take the shot, and then similar where you're talking about, where Stoneman kind of moved in a weird direction. Frank did the same thing. So he's a big guy. You would think that if there's a guy coming to take a shot, that you make yourself big. And instead, he turned and made himself skinny, almost as if like he was afraid to get hit. And it ended up being, I think it was one of those saves that went across the face of goal, and Koke made a nice save, like diving save, and pushed it out of bounds for a corner kick. But on that one, Frank didn't have the urgency to step up on the shot. And then when the shot was coming in, he made himself small instead of making himself bigger to try to defend it. So I think we saw a little bit of that with Stoneman, and we do see that. And it's one of the recurring themes that we do see where they largely play pretty well, but there's just these mental lapses or lazy play that really takes away from how well they're playing, because it leads to these goals. And when the team can't score, like it's unfair to the defense that they have to be perfect. Like I will.
that is perfectly said. Yes.
Right. I mean, we talked about that in many other sports. I mean, this has been, the Patriots for the past few years. Like the defense has to be perfect because the offense has been so shit. That's where RC is right now. They can't score unless they pull a route out of the hat with these bangers, which means the defense needs to be perfect, which means when you're not scoring, 2 or 3 goals to offset those defensive mistakes get highlighted so much more. And that's what we've seen over the past several weeks. And I was with, my friend, and with my dad and son at the game. And the second that goal happened, and that's like what, the 42nd minute or whatever that was, I looked at them and I said, I think we're going to lose. Like, I don't see a way, given Bob Lilly and the way that he's set up and the fact that we've struggled to score in general and the fact that we struggled to score against Pittsburgh. I was like, I don't see how we're going to end up scoring 2 goals. I don't even think we're going to score 1 goal. Like, I think it's over. This game's over already. I 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into Bob Lilly and his devil magic in a second, but like, it was one of, if you look at the calendar of games and it's like, what can't happen in this game? Pittsburgh could not be the one to score the first goal. In the minute, I'll be very honest, I was in the pretzel and beer line when this goal went in. I was watching on the TV and I just was like, oh, this is like exactly the worst thing. And like I said, I was with friends who had never been to an RSC game, and I came back as if like, I was like, we might as well just go home and enjoy this pretzel. But yeah, I mean, the worst part is, getting to halftime, adding insult to injury, all of a sudden my hat exploded. You guys can see it's taped together here, Scotch tape on this guy. So if you work for the RIFC merch department, let me know if I can do anything about this. I bought it like 2 weeks ago. We'll probably super glue it together, but
it's not a cheap
good.
hat. I think someone needs to hook you up here because that's way too expensive of a hat to have the logo fall off after a couple games. Maybe that's just a microcosm of the RIC season so far. Like,
I'll be honest, it was one of those moments of just like, this game, I might as well just go home. Like this game, I might as well start walking home. So just really quickly, Martin, 205, fellow 205 legend here. The pretzel is awesome. I have to correct myself from, I think it was the last episode or the episode before. The pretzel is not $5. Pretzel's $10. I don't know where I screwed that up. It's still very worth it. I'll say that out loud.
100% worth it.
It's the best item in the stadium. I did have the barbacoa tacos this time. Solid. Pretzel's better use of your money. But just wanted to correct the record there. So
yeah, no, the pretzels were great. Martin, I'm also in 205. I don't know your face, so next time if you see me, come stop me so I can say hi to you. I actually saw you, Ryan, after I left the pretzel line. I had 3 pretzels in my hand. And you walked past me and said hi, and I barked over to you, and I was like, I got the pretzels. They were so fucking good. They were fantastic pretzels.
Was I a little upset that the pretzel line was really long? Yes. Did I feel like that might have been my fault? No, but we say on the show, who knows? And it's like, do we gatekeep these things or do we keep them to ourselves? We're going to tell the masses. I think it's the rule of thumb, but the pretzels are so good. Shout out to those people who are doing that. I think it's called Ben's Pretzels. And Matt Hands is correct. California Taco is also just a plus here. Wait a minute. Well, sorry. I gotta bring this one up. They call me Gator. Sorry. I thought they said I never had a pretzel in my life. Never had a better pretzel in my life. That is correct, Gator.
Yeah, absolutely better than Nantian.
Okay, this is good. I like the positive vibes in the chat about the pretzels right now. We got Chris P also reminding us that the pretzels are the bomb. This is good. I don't really want to talk about the rest of the game, but this is good. I like the vibes. But yeah, I mean, Andrew, anything you wanted to bring up at halftime here?
That I've had more pretzels there than goals scored in that stadium by RFC. Like it's just, they can't score. Yikes. They can't score. It's
a mood killer.
Yeah, that's what that goal was though. At that point in the game, late. It's just you felt like they should be winning. They had control of the game, but because of what we've seen so far this season, you knew that until they can translate that into a goal, you just never felt comfortable. And
yeah, I mean, looking at the stats here, this is the most 2025 Rhode Island FC half right here. Slight edge on possession, 54%. That's like right at our average. Like I said, I've been doing slides the past hour, so that I know that's fact. 6 shots to their 7, fine. We had 3 shots on target to their 2. We had 1 big chance. We missed it. They didn't have a big chance at all. We were, crisp on passing accuracy at 83%. We had 2 corners to their 3. Again, it's like the slightest of margins. The other team nicks one on us, and we have to now dig out with an offense that has absolutely zero ability to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the first half, and you try to think of how many good chances they had. There was one with Maxi. Maxi had a shot right at the edge of the box that was set up by Haraval that was kind of put on a platter, put on a tee for him, but it was still a relatively low percentage shot given just where it was, and I think it ended up being deflected. So at first glance, it looked as if he just missed it wide, but to get a corner kick because it was deflected. There was a Clay rip from the outside, but again, we always want Clay to take those shots because he has the ability to put those home. I'm glad he took the shot, but still relatively low percentage. So that's just the theme of a lot of their chances is that they are low percentage because they don't work themselves into position where they're putting together high chance opportunities to be able to take the lead. So you come out of this with all the possession, you feel good about them, dictating the game, but you don't feel good about their ability to have that translate into something. And that was just more of the same in the first half here.
Is that echoing for you?
No.
Wild.
Okay. Am I echoing or just everything's echoing?
I'm getting a echo on absolutely every. Oh man, this is weird.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
All right, I can power through this.
I was gonna say
this is like genuinely nightmare fuel.
I can carry if you need me to. What do you want me to do here? I'm saying no echo.
This is horrible. Like every time. Let's see if it does it. All right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I will push through this for a little bit. This is horrific. All right, so we are in the second half. Oh man, every time. So like 5 seconds after I talk, it then loops back and talks back at me. I don't know what is happening.
Just raw dog this. Just go for it.
Yep, we're gonna go for it. I'm just gonna keep talking, and I can't hear anything. So. All right. So second half, we kick off. I'll be honest. The second half, I have a very light view of what happened. Like we were down at the Pittsburgh end of the pitch. Sorry, it's like I keep talking to myself in my ears.
Yeah, take it off.
Basically, yeah. Like I said, I don't know that I saw a ton. It was a really weird half. We were obviously pushing really hard to get the equalizer, but I just don't know if I ever saw a moment or moments that I expected us to score, or not even expected. I just was like excited about us scoring. I don't know that they had many moments. There obviously was the Grant like big clearance at the end of the game. But at the same time, I don't. Yeah, I think it's really the issue with this team right now is when all they knew they had to score. It was the number one thing probably Connor said to them at halftime, and nothing.
It's just more of the same. It just feels like Groundhog Day every time we're talking about these games, where they just don't have a ton of great opportunities that they create. They had, I think it was in the first half, but Frank had a rip that nearly missed the net. But those are the types of chances that when they do almost score, it's just those long range shots. They didn't really have a whole lot else. There was a play where I forget who put in a great ball, took Wazera on the left side, and he was just kind of in from a tight angle, and he was close. It was probably one of their better opportunities. Excuse me, but the goalie closed it down well. Good positioning, so that ended up getting snuffed out. There was a Noah chance, I think, in the first half on a Aldier free kick where he was just kind of left alone and he just missed the net. So it feels like the chances that they have had have either come from set pieces or come from these long range shots, and they haven't had many chances where they've actually worked the ball into the box and tried to put something on net. So there's just not many of them. And then there was one. The other good chance I could think of was a through ball that went over to Maxi, and Maxi had the goalie out of net, and he tried to chip him or try to do something, and he just completely whiffed on the ball. So it was kind of a dud there by Maxi, but again, relatively low percentage, and that's the kind of the case for all the chances that they do create. It ends up generating a pretty low XG for them in each of these games because they're not creating high chance opportunities. And then Pittsburgh, as we started to press more over the course of the game, particularly late in the game, Pittsburgh just started to create more because they have more space to operate. So when you really look at the clear-cut quality chances that happen on both sides of the ball, it was Pittsburgh that really had the lion's share of them, and there really wasn't much to speak of on the Rhode Island side. You can't hear anything, can you? You're muted. You're on mute. No, you're on mute.
Sorry, everybody. I'm going to have a mental breakdown if I continue the podcast this way. It's just Andrew double talking on top of me. Now I'm talking back to myself, so I will be right back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we pausing or am I going? All right. All right. While he's back with just me, I don't know what his slides are. We didn't communicate that or talk about that beforehand. So I don't know if we're going to talk about Chico. I want to talk about a moment in the first half that really drove me nuts with Chico. I think it was the 18th minute. There was a play where Pittsburgh had just regained possession. We kind of settled back into our defensive shape, and Maxi ended up being kind of the tip of the spear on the press, and he was at the front line pressing the central defenders. And he turned around at one point and just after the press, after he was applying that press, the defender passed the ball. Can you hear me? Okay. The defender passed the ball, and I was just telling an anecdote of a Chico story from the first half. Are you good now?
Well, do you want to hear what it was?
What
I
was
had
it?
the stupid YouTube video open in the volume went on at some point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my first podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's because I was checking to make sure it was live. Trying to do my job.
I was just saying, we didn't talk beforehand about what your slides were. So is there a Chico segment here? Because I was sharing kind of something I had
Guys,
seen in the first
do you think if anyone heard me on Kevin's space last night, you know there's a Chico slide. I'll be very honest with you all.
Okay. All right. So you heard me ranting last night about the lack of press. Is that incorporated in your slide, or can I fire off with that?
Yeah.
All right. So as I was saying, it was the 18th minute. Pittsburgh had the ball. Maxey was applying the press. He was at the front. Chico was nowhere to be found. He looked back and just threw up his hands, screaming at Dequo, like, "Where are you? Where are you?" And then for the next minute or so, Kano lost his damn mind. He was screaming over and over, "Albert, run! Albert, run!" over and over and over again. And it took a while before Chico kind of got the hint and went to go apply the pressure that he needed to. But I just found that to be ridiculous, particularly at that point in the match. It was the 18th minute. There's no reason why he shouldn't be doing what he should be doing, which is something that they probably talked about in the pregame. It's built into their plan of what they're supposed to be doing, which is to apply the pressure, get that press going, try to create turnovers or get them to move the ball. So the fact that he just wasn't pressing, wasn't running, wasn't doing the things that was expected of him in the 18th minute just blows my mind. So I could see an argument for later in the match, tired legs, maybe you don't want to do it, maybe tired mind because you've been playing a full match and you don't want to do it. But in the 18th minute, this should be so fresh in your mind of what you're supposed to do. And it just feels like he's so lackadaisical. And what I don't understand is with JJ sidelined, he's the only option. Does he feel just like entitled to this job because no one else can take it? There needs to be someone else in there to apply pressure on him, because I just don't understand how you're not running. Like, if you're not doing other things well, you need to just work your ass off. And that's what really frustrates me. Later in the game, he got substituted in the 65th, 70th minute, somewhere around there. He was just slowly walking off the field, and Kano was just looking at him like what are you doing? When you're losing and you're trying to press for a goal, you should be hustling off the field and getting off as fast as possible so your teammates can go in and you cannot kill a lot of time. So it's just a lack of hustle. And like I said, when a player is out of form, what I want to be seeing from a player when they are out of form is hustle. That's the one thing you can control, right? You control your effort. You can't control how well you're playing. You can't control how the other team is doing with you. The one thing you can control is hustle, and he can't fucking hustle in the 18th minute or throughout the course of the game, or when your team is down midway through the second half and you need to bring in reinforcements. Like that's what really drives me nuts about this. And for someone who we presume is the highest, for someone who we assume is probably one of the longest term contracts on the team, for someone who was
a fascinating insight and idea.
Yes, it's just there's not enough there. He should be a leader and at least put in the effort, and the effort doesn't feel like it's there. And I'm just like praying that Connor brings in another striker, because they just need even if it's not someone that's going to start, they just need someone in there to put pressure on Chico, or to give those minutes when JJ is healthy and make him do something. Like he's not contributing in any way right now. I find him to be pretty useless. And if you're hustling and you're trying to put pressure on the defense and you're making defenders track with you, and you're putting pressure on the back line through the press, at least you're doing something to cause the other team some discomfort. He causes the opponent zero discomfort. He does.
All right, I'm gonna slow you really, really quick, because we are gonna get into this deeply.
Okay.
I was gonna say, like, do I switch the vibe up? I do have a hat literally in my hand. Do I just switch the vibe up? But I just don't think the vibe's gonna get better from here. I will do it from everyone complaining about the hat. So really quickly, just also, as I did that, the RIFC logo fell off again. It's gonna get worse. I see people. Yeah, there's just a lot of fun facts in the chat. I mean, does anyone care about the full-time stats? I don't even care about bringing them up at this point. Do you want to just get to the slides?
Yeah, let's just
dive in.
Both half stat or the full game stats are very similar to the first half stats. Like, they were almost identical. So
yeah,
I mean, possession, but that was about it.
Yeah, we had possession, la-di-da. Nothing happened. Yeah, that's kind of it. All right, so let's represent that. All right, so we're going to start really quick before we get to the state of RIFC. Just fucking Bob Lilly. This guy, he just... I saw today someone said, and I really try hard not to actually look at the Defiance Discord before the show, just so that I can try to like form my own thoughts. Then we go into this thing. Yeah, it's just fucking Bob Lilly, man. 0 goals in 3 matches against Pittsburgh so far. We've only generated 2.55 total expected goals against them. That includes the 0.08 that we dropped last fall, which I think was the best one. Yes, I am bald, just for the chat, and I am doing my best. Thank you, Gator. Yeah, but yeah, this guy. It also sucks that I just again realized we're playing them again next weekend, which I just did not. What a brutal thing to see after this game.
Yeah, playing them next weekend in Pittsburgh. I mean, we've struggled mightily in all three of their games, three of our games against them. And I don't going into this match. My prediction was that we would win 1-0, but it was a very optimistic prediction. And it was only because I was hoping we could scrape together a goal at home, and I know that Pittsburgh would be struggling to score as well, and we've been pretty sound defensively lately. So that's what I was hoping would be the case. But I don't have any. I have zero confidence that we're going to score next Saturday. Like what's happened over the last several games that gives you confidence that we're going to score? I think we can score if we have one of those, outside the box rips, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. I don't know if I even agree with that last part, but yeah. So Bob Lilly, honestly, like I respect the shit out of this guy. Quite frankly, like I despise the way his teams play. Like because like it's like we've only given up 2.55 at total XG against them. They've only mustered up like 0.98. Like it's just like I actually like genuinely despise people who play the sport this way because it's like the worst version of the sport. It's the version of the sport that people make fun of. It's the version of the sport that's boring. It's the version of sport that's like the least like romantic version of the sport. And as a purist, like it sucks, but hey, it's winning. It wins sometimes. I
think it gets you a solid mid-table place. It makes you very difficult to play against, but unless you have a really potent striker or a couple of good attackers that can kind of work in isolation and bury the ball, it doesn't really produce it doesn't really give you odds to win any hardware. So there are some other leagues in the world where teams that play a more defensive style that can park the bus can do it because they have the quality up top to be able to bury the few chances that they get. But Pittsburgh's been really without any sort of attacking force really since Chico was there, which still blows my mind. But I know they brought in Augie Williams, but he's kind of struggled a bit too. So
Augie Williams, it's funny. I was watching the game and I didn't sit in my normal seats. He's the most he looks so much like a good striker. Like he doesn't play like a good striker, but he looks like I'm like, man, that guy should be so good. He looks like kind of like Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, he fits the part. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's just the way that Pittsburgh has to utilize him that he doesn't really shine too much. But
that and when you bleach your hair, I think that kind of also does that. Yeah.
Quick anecdote on Bob Lilly. So that the friend that I was sitting with wasn't familiar with who Bob Lilly is, and there was I think it was in the first half. One of the assistant coaches was just barking in the fourth assistant or the fourth ref's ear, and he looks at me and he's like, "What the fuck is that guy on the bench? Looks like a bum." And I was like, "That's Bob Lilly. The dude's a legend, man." And he just sat there the whole game, he didn't get up, didn't say anything. His team is just well trained, didn't know exactly what to do. He didn't have to move. He was just enjoying the game like the rest of us were, or maybe we weren't enjoying it, but he was taking in the game like the rest of us were, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, actually, I have to get to this really quick. Tim Sheldon, good joke. They have a keeper that's a dick. Always fun. I have to give, I think it's Eric Dick, a lot of credit. He came over and was signing autographs for the kids after the game and was the nicest guy. He was he saw a kid with goalie gloves and was like, I need to start signing autographs. And I don't know how, he was like, I don't have a Sharpie. And he found one. He was just signing autographs for all the kids. Super, super nice guy. He also was really complimentary of Koke and Jackson as they were coming over. Cause he was like, oh, you think he's like, the kids were like, oh yeah, you're really good. And he's like, no, your keepers, they're coming over right now. Make sure you stay. They're awesome. Super nice guy. I have to shout him out. Cause that, I don't know. I think that's the best part of all of this. We're going to get into, shitting on a lot of stuff right now, but I have to say one of the highlights of the match for me was Eric Dick being a professional of professionals to these children.
That's pretty cool. Did you run over a dick pic with him at the end?
You son of a bitch. Well, it was a touching moment that lasted 2 seconds on this show. All right. So as we keep going, so this basically all was supposed to be part of the In Focused part of the show. We're not going to do the 3 highlights thing. The first one was Bob Lilly, and then I just started going down the rabbit hole of what the hell is going on. I actually don't even remember what I named the rest of the slides in terms of headlines. Usually I would try to come up with something fun about the changing tides of CONMEBOL. At this point, I'm like, what's going on this season? So we're going to pull out really quick, right? So just at the very, very high level, looking at shots per game, shots against, and expected goals. I've said this for a bit, and I think this actually really highlights kind of a lot of things, right? So shots per game were pretty flat year over year. Shots against, we're only giving up 9 shots per game, and in looking at XG, we are way under 31% less XG than the year before, and we are minus 10%, almost 11% XG against per game. I do have to give the reminder, if you are listening to the podcast, this is the time to pause, jump on the YouTube, because there's a lot of visuals coming up. But yeah, I mean, I think it paints a pretty clear picture. And I think this is also why when we get really stuck in on some of these goals, it's like the team, we're giving up less than 9 shots per game and like giving up basically a goal per game, but like they feel so big and so heavy because of the lack of offensive production here.
Yeah, and I think that's just looking at this, my first glance at this is do you think it's because of how we're playing now, where teams are getting more counter-attacking opportunities than they would have last year? Like for the XG to be where it is relative to the shots per game, but teams are still scoring. Do you think it's just the quality of the chances is different because of the style that we're playing now?
Andrew, great question. So as we look into last year, this is good. I'm excited to see how far I can be. So if we look at this is fun by Canva that you get to see different lines. But yeah, so we look at last year, we started off our XG4, and this is on a 3-match rolling average. We just like couldn't figure it out for a long time. Our expected goals against kind of kept rising. And then over the summer, and this was really where that changing tides of CONMEBOL here kicked off, and we just kind of really rolled. I mean, what you really want to see here is a big gulf between the blue line and the orange line. And that's what we saw through the summer into the playoffs. This line here is when the new season started. And, we didn't start off well. The beginning of the season, we looked messy. That Charleston game was tough. The Phoenix game, we gave up a lot. In the Loudoun game, we looked really messy. But ever since, we've been on a really nice path downward on that orange line, which again is the expected goals against. But unfortunately, our expected goals for has just stayed at a very, very pitiful place at about a goal to a goal and a half per game. So, really tough, especially when you start looking at last year, where we started out pretty hot in goals for. And then again, like I said, the rest of the season, we really got hot, where we were way over 2 goals per game for the majority of this year.
Yeah. Do you mind just dropping the comment there? I want to see kind of
yeah, it's fair. It's blocking a lot.
The timeline there, because I do think what's different about this early part of the season relative to last year is last year we struggled to score. We were trying to figure out the offensive identity. We were trying to figure out how to create find a creative spark.
Well, it was one of those things where it actually last year, there was an excuse.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the biggest problems of this year is there should be no excuse. And I was going to make a point on that in a little bit, but the point that I'm making here was more of, it felt like in that early part of the season that we were just missing one little thing, but that we were generally setting things up correctly and we just couldn't find the goals. But it felt like, hey, we've been better, just the goals haven't come. And that's why we saw a ton of draws to start the season. This year, it doesn't, we're coming out of these games and feel like, I think we were better, but we didn't really create a lot of good opportunities. And if you just measure up good opportunities on both sides, we're losing that battle in most of these games. And maybe it's just the weight of expectations now versus what we had last year, but I don't have the same feeling of we're on the precipice like I did last year. So the other point I was going to raise, which you just alluded to, is last year that we had the excuse of we were building towards something. Everything was brand new for everybody. Where they were living, where they were playing, working with each other, the coaching staff, everything about it was brand new. This year, obviously, we're in a new stadium, but if you just look at the core pieces in the attack, we took what we had last year and we added Maxi Rodriguez is one of the best players in the league. So why the hell have we gotten worse? Why are we worse now, even relative to where we were in the first part of last year? What has changed in this setup that would make you expect that would lead to us underperforming even where we were last year? And I don't get it. And I understand that there's some semblance of trying to find yourself now that you have inserted a new piece, but given the familiarity with all these different players, why is it that we're underperforming? What has changed since last year? And the only thing I can go back to is individuals aren't playing as well. No one's not playing.
Andrew, I'm going to put a pin in what you're about to say.
Oh,
so Very, very quickly. So when we look at kind of what the hell is going on, just really want to focus tonight on the offensive side of the ball. I have been on this podcast trying to give a lot of credit to the defense. I genuinely think defensively we are doing really, really well. We're giving up a couple unfortunate goals. I think those are concentration things. I think those can be fixed. I think as a we're getting to the point where we have a pretty decent sample size on this defense. It's looking really good. And I think it's kind of going under the radar because of how bad our offense is. But I'm going to also push that narrative because I think our offense is really struggling here. So when we zoom out and look at kind of the core offensive statistics here. So a couple of things here. So I didn't get a chance to color code these ones, but possession I think is an interesting one. We're about 5% percentage points up year over year. We're also just passing the ball better. Like we're 82% this year versus 77% last year. Shots per game is pretty flat. Shots on target per game is flat. Shots blocked per game is flat. I actually expected that to be a big point when I was putting the slide together. It was not. But here is one of them. Big chances per game. Duels won is pretty flat. Crosses per game is way up. Accurate ones, but I don't think it's doing much. And then crosses per game corners per game is way down. So I think between these things, right, we're a team who possesses the ball significantly more, but we're creating less chances and we're creating like less corners, which corners I only highlight. I don't think we're good at them, but I only highlight them because I think they're a really good measure of like, are you putting pressure on the offensive end? So to me, there's something going on here where it's like we're getting a lot of possession, but we're not really doing shit with it.
Yeah, and I question that accurate crosses per game. I don't know what's defined as accurate, but I see very few accurate crosses.
Yeah,
in the games now.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, it might have just been like that one game in Phoenix where Aldair was putting in like 18 crosses and they were all unbelievable. It might have just lifted us up, but quite frankly, I think a lot of this comes down to the key players in our system, and that's what you were just kind of getting to. So I have the year-over-year stats of the 5 core pieces of our offense at this point. So I'm going to start with Maxi. Quite frankly, I think he's been an absolute positive to this offense. I think he's the only bit of offense that has been like consistently generating anything. Has he been perfect? Absolutely not. I think there's a lot of chances that he would have loved to bury, but his expected goals per game, and you have to always put the caveat in that the 2024 season was in Detroit. This one's in Rhode Island, but the exact same expected goals per game. His expected assists per game is very similar. He wasn't a big assist guy. I think that was one of the kind of misconceptions with Maxi coming here, was he's going to be a big guy who's like setting up chances. He's not. He's more of a goal guy. His shots per game is up. He's taking almost a shot and a half more per game, or more than that. And then his key passes per game is up. So he is like almost getting 1 per game here. So I have to say, of all the players in the offense so far, I think Maxi has been like what you would have wanted him to be.
Yeah, he's by far the most involved.
Also, I'm going to just, before I get into this, because we're going into individual players, we all know I have my favorites. I promise you I'm going to be very honest about everybody, but Maxi is having a good season.
Yeah, I mean, he's
So that was not to you, that was the chat.
Yeah, no.
I'm always addressing the chat when I'm hosting.
Yeah, but you're spot on here for Maxi. I mean, he's involved in the offense. It's interesting because he kind of plays in that 10 position, or at least the most advanced of that midfield trio, but he's the one that's most often dropping back and receiving balls from defense. You can tell with that sense of urgency, like he just wants to pick it up, get going, get moving on. He's involved in a lot of our attacking movement. So he's just involved in all places on the field. So when we do have good chances, most of the time he has some involvement in it. So he's been one of the few people that's been able to generate something. Maybe the assists per game are better because he has no one around him that can finish.
But to be clear, 0.09 versus 0.07, like these are micro numbers. All right, so Maxi, if I had a gavel, I'd slam it and I'd say, Maxi, you're off the hook. I think you're doing great. And now I'm going to get to 2 guys who I don't think are doing as great as they were last year, and that is our wingers. So Noah Fuson and Jojea Quezera. So this I find like really fascinating because they're, to me, maybe not Noah, but Quezera is playing in a much more offensive position, right? He has like no defensive responsibility this season. Whereas Noah, has been kind of playing a little bit all over the place. they're both playing in these winger spots, so I'm kind of pairing them together here. But looking at Noah, his expected goals per game is down 15%. His expected assists per game is down 65%, right? Like that 0.26 expected assists per game that he had last season is very, very healthy. This one, he's at 0.09 this season. That's really brutal. But you'll see on both of them, their shots per game are up. So clearly Kano has told them, like, you guys need to be more on the output side. But yeah, key passes for Noah down 32, almost 33% here. So like really, really tough on the playmaking front. Quizera, very similar story. His expected goals per game is actually very flat, but expected assists is down 43%, and his key passes per game is down 15%. So it seems like the theme here is kind of saying, guys, I need you to shoot more. I need you to be more of the offensive part of this game, but their expected goals are either Noah's are down, Quizera's are flat, but they're also not creating for anybody else. So I think this is a really key part because these were the two playmakers in chief last season, and they're just not playmaking, and they're also not scoring, and they're kind of both, as Chris P puts it, lost in a bit of no man's land.
Part of it I do feel pretty strongly is not having JJ for the stretch. I mean, I think that these are full season numbers, so I think
we're going to get to, unfortunately, that last bit there.
Yeah, and with JJ, I think that they can play off of him a lot better. He has better hold up play. He sucks in defenders just because of how big he is and his skill set that he brings. So I think that frees Noah and Quizera up to be able to do more around him and also give him an outlet to be able to play off of. JJ does well to bring in his attacking teammates as well to be able to get them into positions where they can do stuff. So I do think part of it is that, but part of it I think is just straight underperformance. And Noah last year, when he started to click and do well, I think it's really when he started to settle into that position where he was in that supporting forward role, where he got to shirk a lot of his defensive responsibilities. And most importantly to me, this is what I saw last year, there was a focus on what he was doing game over game. Because before that point, it felt like every game he was getting switched into a new spot. He was wing back. He was attacking midfielder. He was the double attacking midfielder with Jack P for a while. Then he was a forward. And it feels like once we settled into our system and he had the same role game over game, whether it was JJ there or Chico there, he did really well. And he combined really well with Quizera. And they had a nice triangle going with Quizera and Noah and whoever else was playing in one of those midfielder roles. And he was supporting JJ. So it just felt like there was that clarity that doesn't exist now. And his role has largely been the same. I know he played a little bit of wing back at the beginning of the year. And really, they're just flip-flopping the sides. And they've done this the last several games where somewhere around the 30-minute mark, they'll switch over and go from inverted to their natural side. Then at somewhere around the 60 mark, they flip back. I still haven't quite figured out why. I don't know if that's more defensive help in terms of.
I'll be honest, I genuinely think that's not helping.
It isn't. And that was kind of what I was leading to was they've been doing this thing where they change sides, and I can't really figure out why because it feels like they're equally inept on both sides. So I don't know if it's more of just they're trying to be able to help certain defenders on one side. Maybe one has more defensive responsibilities and they're just trying to keep it fresh. I don't know what it is, but he's not doing what he needs to do. So for me, Noah is playing in a role where he can be creative, and I think that's where he should be excelling, and he's not. Quizera, I think I'm a certified Quizera hater on the Tide Talk team. I've hated him since last year.
I think I'm on the also like very mixed end too. So like I think of the Tide Talk crew, I think we are the haters.
Yeah, and for most of the early part of the year, Quizera didn't impress me. I've said to you before, like I thought Colin Smith was going to end up taking his role last year because I just didn't see what he was providing on that left wing. He went on an international break and he came back, you know, with as a man on fire, and he really started to play well. And he went through the stretch, and he had times where he faded a little bit. For the most part, he was pretty strong, and I think it's reverted back to what he was last year, where he's not really taking on guys enough. He's not blowing past them. He's not crossing the ball well enough. He's not combining well enough. And then there are so many times where I think the two areas where I think that he struggles the most is his vision and anticipation to know where to put the ball. A lot of times he receives the ball and he doesn't know what to do with it next, or he recognizes it too late and the opportunity is gone. I saw that all last year. I see that a lot this year. There's too much hesitation, and the play needs to move really quickly when you're playing this possession-based ball, and you need to just be able to get the ball out and keep it going, especially in that final third. He doesn't do that well enough. The other thing that I think he's not really good at is his first touch. I think his first touch lets him down way too often. When you combine those two, it's a nightmare. So the plays where he does really well, it tends to be when he's tracking back on defense, gets the ball, and he has space to operate because he has one mode, and that's go forward and take the guy on. But when he has to take the ball, turn, and figure out what to do with it, this is where he's struggling. So he's not getting it done. And I don't really know what position puts him in best place to be able to turn things around.
Yes. So I think everything you said was spot on, which, I think we all would agree there. My only hope is that I hope Kano stick to his guns a little bit on whatever decision he makes here. I think he needs to start letting them go through these games in the positions that he wants them to play with the instructions that he wants them to do. Because I think we're currently in I'm someone who is okay investing in a long-term solution if there's going to be short-term impact. I'm very okay with that. I actually see the vision with what he wants to do. I think there's two fatal flaws, or maybe one fatal flaw with our team, right? So the big issue currently with playing Quizera on the right is that he doesn't have even the lightest threat of going to the touchline. So if that is the case, you usually want so in the system we're playing this thing where the back line kind of inverts a bit, and then one of the fullbacks runs where the other one stays back. So currently the right fullback, who has been so far Rio, this game was Frank, sits back and they kind of move into a back three. Whereas the left fullback, who is Aldair, he goes forward. Or one thing that's been interesting, which I want to eventually get into this, but Aldair is doing some really interesting stuff that I would love to pan out more because I think it's cool. But he has the option to either tuck inside or to go and make the overlapping run. Unfortunately, the person who needs the overlapping run is actually Quizera on the right. But when he's on the left, he doesn't need the overlapping one. He wants to be the one on the outside. So we currently have this really odd thing happening where, Aldair is making the overlapping run on the outside, but the person who needs help is actually Quizera. But if you flop them, then then Quizera and him are kind of conflicting. So I think there's some stuff to work out. Again, I think we've talked a lot about this squad is kind of really weirdly built at this moment. I think we've hit this moment of just a lot of square pegs and a lot of round holes here. But yeah, so that's the wingers here.
Just really quickly, I do think when both of them were at their best last year is when they got to combine with each other. Because to your point, when Noah was dropping in, he was able to play Quizera into open spaces where he could fly down the wing. And the way that they're being positioned now is that they're on opposite sides of the field and they can really work together. So the Quizera's been lucky that there's been no true right wing back. That's forced us to go, in my opinion, to this 4-man back line because there's no one else that can really put in that right wing back spot unless you pull Clay over there. I would like to be able to see a return to the lineup that we had late last year, put Rio in there, and hopefully Danny Rivera comes back at some point if he's even a real person. And
I saw him at the game.
You did? So he is a real, but we don't know if he's a real soccer player. We just know he's a person.
I didn't see him kick a ball, but I did see him at the game.
But I would rather have Aldair on the left and Rio on the right and just either sit Quizera or try Quizera on the left and have him combine with Noah in the original spot that they were playing in late last year. The issue there is Aldair's playing pretty well, and it would suck to see him get benched there. But I do think the two of these players on the screen right now did best when they worked together, and right now they're not in positions to work together.
Great point. So I am going to move off the wingers here because we do have more problems, and I am going to bring them up. Here he is, everybody. It is Albert Chico Diqua. So Albert's numbers here. So his expected goals per game are down 40% year over year. So he's at about a half expected goals per game last year. He's down to 0.32. I will give him credit. His creative numbers here, his expected assists per game is up 40%. His key passes per game is up 25, but shots per game is at 23% down at less than 2 shots per game, which, from someone who's being the central striker, the only striker of a team, not good. Not good is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I went on my diatribe earlier when you went off to take a nap or whatever it is that you were doing. So I've said
the weird part is I could still hear you because of the YouTube was still going. The thing that was
that's right.
I popped off and I was like, wait, why can I still hear Andrew? And I literally was in my microphone being like, hello, and you were couldn't respond. It's because the YouTube was going. Keep going.
But yeah, I said a lot of what I wanted to say earlier, but it's
also really I'm going to say, if you're in the chat and you have comments, let them rip. This is probably the segment that's going to get them all. So
there's no creativity in the final third. We've talked about that a ton, but he is a big piece of that. And the reason he's a piece of that is that he commands no attention. And I think Hans said it earlier at some point where JJ does a good job of pulling defenders in and just sucking up pressure and opening up spaces and creating places for or opportunities to play off with his teammates. Chico does not do that. The defense routinely does not have to worry about him. And it drives me nuts to listen to this broadcast where they continue to talk about Chico like he's the MVP, which was 2 years ago now, and he's playing nowhere near that level. So, and I've said it many times, but you just look at his skill set and what he brings, and you say, what does he do really well? He's not good at aerial duels. He gets pushed off the ball way too easily. He's not someone that rips shots from the outside, so he's not a threat in terms of being a long-range shooter. He hasn't been a fox in the box, and the team hasn't been creative enough to even get him the opportunities to do that. He doesn't have good hold-up play, and you and I discussed last night on the space. I think he did that really well early last year, and it just kind of went away, and we haven't seen it return.
I was going to ask about this. So yeah, if you caught Kevin Space last night, you got a lot of my very, very honest opinions, very unstructured. But I guess just if we're going to break this down, so because I think we're going to spend a lot of time on this slide. When do you think was Chico's best stint in this team?
I would say after the team found its offensive form, which was largely off of the back of JJ after his return from injury. When Chico plugged in there, when JJ missed some games late in the year, I think he plugged in pretty seamlessly and still provided enough and still scored some goals. And the team didn't look like it missed too much. I would say closely followed by early in the year where it felt like offensively he was the only one that would really provide a pop. Like
my two, the ones that stand out to me was like Monterey Bay away very early.
Yep.
And then Las Vegas away early.
He was an outlet. Like we had no midfield at that point in time. We were still trying to figure out what the system was, and the only thing that we really had going for us was a boot from the back from Koke or the defensive line to Chico, who was able to take the ball down well, wait for help, and try to do something with it. And he did that pretty well. But that was really it. I mean, at that point in time, the goals weren't coming, but we attributed that more to the team more so than him. And now I think it's both.
I think the thing that I struggle with a lot with Chico is you've seen flashes of a good player. I'm not going to go too high on any of this, but so I'm talking about the Monterey and Las Vegas games, for instance. And I actually thought in those games, and the Las Vegas game was actually my first Tie Talk ever, or RIFC Nation appearance, right? It was my first show ever. And I actually remember one of the things I talked about a lot, and I think maybe, I don't know if I said it loud, but his hold up play in that game was awesome. Really, really good. And right now I think I struggle with him because it's what does this system need from its striker? It needs hold up play. We're not getting that. It needs the ability to win duels. We're not getting that. It needs someone who can create chances. He's doing a bit of that. I will give him that. He's doing a bit. It's doing someone who can run at the defense. It's doing that he can scare the defense, and someone who can get shots off and score. So he's doing almost none of those things. And the thing that just sticks with me as we talk about the offensive situation in general, but also the striker situation specifically with Chico, is as someone who played defense my whole life, mostly because I was not talented enough to kick a ball, the thing that you would always think about is who scares me the most? That's what we need to stop. That's what we need to focus on. And right now, and I said this last night in Kevin's space, there's no need to care about him. You can the thing that I think, and we're going to get to JJ in 1 second. But with JJ, he's constantly double covered, double marked. With Chico, you can easily say 1v1, no problem, go do that. So then we can double up on Noah. We can double up on Quezera. We can double up on Maxi. He's not causing a problem for anybody. And that's the thing is you want your star striker, the potentially maybe, I don't know, maybe facts are out there that he's the longest tenured player on this team and maybe might be getting paid a lot of money on this team. Striker, you want that to be the guy who is causing problems, who is making the defense think too much. I want people to John Terry. I'm sorry to make this about Arsenal really quick. John Terry used to talk about the only player I would be nervous to play against was Thierry Henry. And I'm not saying that anyone in this league or anything is Terry Henry, but like you want the defense to be nervous going to sleep the night before the game. And I actually bet a lot of them are against JJ Williams. I think everyone's sleeping very soundly tonight playing Chico.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, with JJ, given his size, he gets banged on a lot, and he has one or two guys on him, and people have to bring him down, and they just have to be super physical with him. It doesn't that at least exert some effort from the defense to be able to have to defend JJ.
Speaking of effort, really quick, can I would like to talk about this really quick. Do you think it's an effort problem?
I didn't until last night. Or
so I don't think it's an effort thing. I will say that. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say he's not trying.
I generally agree. I think it's been more of lack of skill. But yesterday I thought was inexcusable. At that early stage in the game, to have Maxey, who's the spiritual leader of this team, screaming at him, asking him where he is, and then have Kano lose his damn mind. And then we've heard Kano scream at players before. This was different. The way he was screaming at Kano, he was just Kano was screaming at him. He was just exasperated, like saying his name over and over and over again. Albert, run! Albert, run! Like he couldn't believe that the very simple task of just chase down the ball in the defensive line and make them do something with it, he wasn't doing that. And then add that to his slow walk off the field in the 70th minute. I do think that there was an effort issue last night. I did not think that before last night. I think the effort was there. I just don't think the effort amounted to anything because he doesn't have enough. He's not dynamic enough or creative enough or enough of a focal point for defenders to have to stop him to be able to help out his teammates or score goals on his own. Like he just doesn't. How many good opportunities has he had this year? Like he's had a few bad misses, but on the whole, if you look at all the games, how many times has he even put himself in the position where you're like, wow, that's a dangerous chance for us. Like it just hasn't been there. He's done nothing. He's been invisible.
Yeah.
And I joked last night on the space. I would rather see Frank up there. Let's put fucking Koke up there and put Jackson Lee in that. Like anyone else can provide more, except for maybe Mark Doyle in that position.
Yeah. Does anyone want the sad slide?
This is not the side slide?
There's a sad slide. The sad slide is this one.
Okay.
JJ Williams was having a fucking hell of a year. JJ, his expected goals per game were up 10%. His expected assists per game were up 84%. His shots per game were up 28%. And his key passes per game were up 72%. There's a short out there on our YouTube, if you look at it, that I, at some point earlier this season, said maybe a golden boot is coming back here, which I feel like a shithead about saying out loud. But now that I look at these stats, I'm like, fuck, I was right. Like, JJ was having a hell of a year. And I think he is a lot of the antidote of this problem. He cannot be the full problem. Sorry, the full solution, because like he's one guy and like you cannot rely. One of the big issues with our team right now, if we just want to get in the weeds of it all, is that we're playing a system where like there's three players who kind of are holding the whole thing together. Like if Aldair is hurt, like we have no one who can play left back. And if like Chico, if Noah or Quazera are out, like there's no other natural wingers in the system. Like it's just a really weirdly built squad. We've already went through that earlier this season. If you go back, I don't know what episode it was, but we've done slides on that. But yeah, I genuinely think actually if JJ, you slot him into the system, it actually works like kind of really well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if Aldair gets hurt, I think they probably go to a back three, to your point, because of just the way that the team.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see Quazera back on the left wing back. We're gonna go back to something we've very much seen before.
But with JJ, I said earlier, I'm praying that Kano and his staff are looking for help here, a viable option at striker, simply because even if JJ's back soon, which we hope he is, he might be a couple weeks out based on reports and the fact that he's bootless and then hopefully he's starting to train soon. But given his play style, given his body type, given his history, he's not someone that, like, when he's back, we're not seeing JJ for the rest of the season healthy. Mm-hmm. Like, he will miss games. And even if he doesn't miss games, there are going to be times where he either needs a rest or we're behind and we need to bring in more attacking threat. And there was no one else there.
Well, right now we don't have a single offensive substitution, really. Like Joe Brito technically, but like we're just bringing on midfielders.
There's no one. Yeah. And when we were down in the second half and I'm looking at the subs, I'm just like, who is he going to bring in? Like Amos can bring energy. Brito can bring energy, but do either one of them? Do you think that either one of them are really going to provide a ton more, or give us an opportunity to tie this game? I think it's just fresh legs, and there's no one else there. So I need someone else. I need another striker in there to put pressure on Chico, and also to give us another viable option if and when JJ needs time to either rest or recover from a knock at some point later in the season. And this is the scary thing none of us want to think about. We don't know what JJ we're going to get when he returns.
Oh, come on. We're getting this guy.
I hope so. I mean, if he hasn't been able to run because of a calf strain, just the fitness level, like we don't know.
Well, I will say, if we're going to talk about any good news that we got over the past 24 hours, that people did see JJ running on the pitch before the game. We'll see when we see him, but that was like a nice light at like a minuscule of light. But I want to bring this comment up from They Call Me Gator. Thank you, Gator, for bringing this back up, because I know you asked earlier and I did have a mark to like go back to, but do you have any thoughts on why we haven't signed any strikers?
I genuinely don't know.
I agree. So Gator, very, very sad answer, but like agreed.
If they started with this system, if they started the year with the system they're in now, I could see a situation where they're only going to play one at a time, and therefore you might not need a whole lot of depth there, and you can have Noah fill in or Brito fill in a pinch. But they started with their 2 striker system. So if they're starting with 2 strikers up top, and they did that for the first few games, there was no one to bring into that spot. Like, there's 0 options off the bench. Never mind to give these guys backup if someone gets injured. There's no reinforcements there. So I genuinely don't know. And the only thing I can think of is that, given the fact that Kano likes flexibility in his players, he just expected that there'd be enough quality in his other attacking options that he can just rotate and put guys in there.
I mean, any thoughts on Hans' comment here with we have a lot of money committed to strikers, probably?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't know how much Mabika costs, but if he was a former MLS player, I'm guessing he's not cheap. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe the fact that he didn't have a team just made it so that he was cheap for us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about. Yeah, I mean, fair, but
why do we have nothing? Like, why do we not, like, on defense? We might never see Cole Dewhurst this year, but at least he's someone that they brought in. Like, who they didn't bring in a single other even
academy level.
There's nobody. There's no one to grow into that role. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to address this really quick. So Jason Demers says sell. I don't think that's even remotely possible.
I don't see how it could be.
Like, I don't know how you, like, the thing about sell is you need an asset to sell. Like, selling a guy who's on high wages on a long-term contract. Like, why would he move?
And there's been no, we just went over this, but there's been no aspect to Chico's game that you can look at and say, at least he's doing that really well, and that could fit somewhere else.
The thing about selling is you need another party to buy. So, no, I mean, I think a lot of us would sell Chico right now, but I don't. The thing is, what are you going to get for him? I will say, Kevin says he has a horrible question to ask. He doesn't even want to speak into existence. Kevin, I've had 2 8% IPAs before the show. Feel free to ask it. I will probably bring it up tonight. Oh, here it is. Ooh. All right. So Kevin has a fun question. Is it time to cash in on one of the best keepers in the league, in Lee, to get a striker? And that is Jackson Lee.
If the presumption here is that they can't sign a striker because of money, I think it's worth considering.
I agree.
Because they're like, what's Jackson doing to help this team right now? I love Jackson, but what does he
looked great at the halftime warmups, which I told him he's putting all the midfielders to shame because he's whipping that ball around.
And I'm sure he'll play well next week, given that it's a cup game. But he can't contribute as much as a new striker could be. That's presuming this is money, and I don't know that it is.
Well, the other side of this too, though, is Jackson on some. The 2 sides of it are wages and then fee. I would assume Jackson's not on something crazy wages wise, which if someone wants to correct me, fair. But I also think of the fee you could get for players on our team. He has to be on the high end because I think he's he's a 23-year-old keeper who has shown a lot of upside. So
yeah, I would say so. I would. As much as it would pain us, because we're all huge fans of
massive. I want to be clear. I don't want this to happen, but like massive fan of him. I also sorry, Andrew, cut you off. Everyone's saying sell. I think you guys are forgetting when you sell someone, you need the other team to be high on them to get a lot of money. So I'm seeing a lot of sell the player that's out of favor with us in different scenarios. Like you can't just be like, hey, every team take our garbage and give us a bunch of money for it. So that's the other side of it. You always have to remember is that there's two sides to every equation.
Yeah, and I hope that the money isn't an issue, but I mean, I have zero clue what their finances look like.
Yeah, I in fairness, I think we are getting like deep in the weeds on like squad building and stuff like that. Whereas if I would like to approach this problem with nothing's going to change on the team because I expect nothing to change on the team. So Andrew, like you wake up tomorrow, you're Connor Smith. So sorry you lost all your hair, but you're also, a little taller and a little faster. What would you do? Let's say like maybe next game isn't the Jägermeister Cup. Let's say next game is like a league game. What are you doing?
If we can't bring in another striker
option, you only have what's on our team right now.
I think I would go back.
There's no MLS loanee that's coming in.
Yeah.
Who's American born and whatever disclaimers that I heard last night.
Yeah, there are a lot of those. I would go back to our old system. I think I would go back to the three center back system, have the two wing backs, and maybe it's Quezera there, maybe it's Aldier, Rio on the right. Hopefully Danny Rivera comes back. Same midfield trio, and pair Noah up top with JJ/Chico, and try to like if Noah can get going in that same role and same remit that he had last year, whether it's with Chico or with JJ, I think that's a huge boost. And it also puts him in a good position to be able to combine with Maxi and combine with whoever that wingback player is. And at least it should be a relatively comfortable system where they know how to work it. They know how to create chances. They know how to work pockets in space. It feels like that is worth trying at this point because Noah, striker aside, like if you put away the striker problem, if you could pick one player to really get going to try to jumpstart this offense, I think it's Noah. And I think Noah plays really well in that supporting forward role when they just have the two forwards in that three-back system.
I think that's fair. My take, which I many people disagree with me on Kevin's space last night, I would honestly love to see Maxi as like a false nine with like Amos in the midfield, kind of making runs off him. I don't think it's the best solution, but I think it's the most workable with what we have. I think he gets the most out of the talent. Again, I don't know if it would work. I know Maxi did not love playing like a number 9 in Detroit, but I also think Maxi would prefer winning over what's happening right now.
I'd be willing to try that. And he did play kind of at false 9 for a period of time in one of the home games in that first week. I can't remember which one it was. He was paired up with Brito. I could see it working. My where I'm questioning is who gets him the ball or how
I think it's either Clay or Haraval is playing that number 10. I mean, we saw Haraval have some really interesting moments towards the end of last season playing that kind of advanced midfielder. He got that Chasetown goal against Tampa at home. I think he's someone who has the athleticism to put a lot of pressure on the ball, but also the skill set to make things happen. It also allows him and Clay to kind of bounce off each other. And then Amos is, right there. Shout out to Amos. I saw him when I was running today. Great guy. But yeah, I just think if we look at the positions, and I could go find the slide I made of like kind of where do we have the depth of resources. It's in that like attacking-ish midfielder, and I think it's like let's just maximize our depth, and that's where it is. So I don't know. That's where I would try. Again, it's easy to say here sitting in front of a microphone where I have no decision making or consequences, but.
I mean, let me be clear. I am up for changing anything at this point because the current system with these current players is not working. And I'm only half joking when I'm talking about putting Koke and Frank up front.
Well, I was going to say, are you down on the Koke up front?
Yeah, like any of that. I mean, if Jackson's playing keeper this next weekend, Koke is free, man.
That is insane again. So the funny thing about the Koke up front, which is never. Let's be very clear, it's not going to happen. It is another scenario where we're using our resources to our advantage, where we have two phenomenal keepers, and we're using the one who's a great ball playing keeper up top. Again, literally never ever going to happen. Also, shout out to Koke; he's having a great season. We brought it up a couple episodes ago, but I do want to move us along because we are we are going deep tonight. But yeah, shout out to everybody who's still with us. We really appreciate it. Keep getting those comments in the chat. And please, please, please like and subscribe. Like this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're still here. If you're still here, you're probably subscribed. Let's be real. But we really, really appreciate the commentary here because, you know, this is a tough one. I know a lot of people were saying, we put a poll out earlier today. Do you want the episode tonight or do you want it tomorrow? And everyone's like, I almost need it tonight for therapy. And, you know, that's what a lot of these sessions are. They are group therapy here, but we are going to roll over to the social comments here. So I'm going to start at Instagram, the RIFC in 3 here. We got Terrace here with not good enough. We got Pawtucket J with New England weather. Yeah, weather, very bizarre yesterday. It would rain for 10 minutes, be lovely, rain again. Terrible. Pawtucket J double dipped here, and he said worst goal ever. We got Boothville Brewing with ugly Pittsburgh goal, sloppy. So they had a 4th there. We'll let it slide. And then JJ 815 could not finish good. Holstead had another great game. Fair. Bad was Chico even out there, and ugly Pitt's lucky goal, which is fair. On the Tie Talk RI Facebook, Instagram page, Twitter page here. Jeez. We got the outsider here with ugly Dequa Quizera Kano's game plan. Bad starting 11 decision by Kano to leave Brito and Amos and not bring them on until the 74th minute. I don't agree with that. Good, nothing. Game.
I was barking at Kano on the sideline, being like, bring in a sub. And then, like, literally, as I said that, Burrito and Amos were coming. I felt like it was a little bit.
I like that. I like the sub when it came on. I just don't agree that it was a bad starting 11. Like, I don't. Maybe Amos, but.
I thought the subs were late. They weren't doing enough through that point in time. I felt like those subs could have and should have come sooner.
Yep. Then we got RFC in 3 here. Dequa, get out. Let me check the old Facebook page here, which I did not check. So I'm going to do this quickly enough. We do have Scott in the chat here. RIFC in 3. Just run fast here. I don't know if this is Tyler's actual one, but he said, shut up, Ryan. Fine. And then while I filibuster try to find this, Andrew, question from the Call Me Gator, who's been on fire in the chat. Inking was solid offensive threat last year. Is he almost back?
I think so. I mean, we've seen the videos of him kind of.
Oh, sorry. I do. Wait, I thought I told you the information I had. Talked to him at the game. He said he's about a week out from like being like, I don't know if it's. So I always struggle when players tell us anything because they're always like the most optimistic version of it because they believe in themselves so hard.
Amos was almost back all last year.
Yep. He said he was about a week out. I probably should not say that on the record. But I would assume maybe a couple more weeks until we start to see him.
Yeah, I was going to say from what we heard, someone on Space last night, I don't know if it was Kevin or somebody, said that he wasn't sure if he would be playing in that international game or not. So
yes,
that at least speaks to it feels like he's coming soon. It's just a matter of when he'll be fit enough to really start to contribute and get on the field. But I don't think it's a situation where it's going to be a ton longer, but hopefully, fingers crossed within the next month, I would guess that we might see him at least on the bench. Really quickly, just the not having Ibarra on the bench sucks. I mean, we saw him on the bench the last time we had a home game, and we kind of assumed when he wasn't back at Birmingham that maybe he just didn't go on that road trip.
That was really weird.
Yeah. So the fact that he wasn't on the bench, maybe there was a blip. Maybe he wasn't actually. They just needed to put a name down, and they just threw his name on there, even though he was going to play.
Yeah, maybe he never even tied his shoes. He was just like no shin guards, just no shoes tied. Just
maybe.
There.
So I'm concerned that there was a setback given the fact that he is no longer making it on the bench. So I'm hoping that we start to see him soon again.
I think I'm leaning more towards he wasn't actually ready for that game. He just was like, because the rest of that bench was like really bad that game. So I think it might have just been like number filler. Do you want to give Scott a shout out here? He's giving his stuff live. His good, bad, ugly. His good, all fans agreed on something. Bad, the horrible backwards passing. And total lack of effort here, which is tough. So going to the Facebook, there actually was Facebook comments. So shout out to everyone there. Don Lindbergh, the man. A striker, please. I totally agree. Don and Don Poole nails it with need JJ back, which I think, was liked there. So we are going to go to the Defiance Discord here. So we have Tyler with This Just Sucks. We got Andrew Gomes with the one I said I think was going to be the episode title, but we'll see if I do it. Lily Blue Bald, which is just tough. We We got Taras here, another disappointing loss. We got Mike Howard here with another sloppy conceit. We got Mike Howard with his good, bad, ugly. His good, good control and passing up to attacking third. Bad hesitation before every shot. Maxey excluded. Yep, agreed. And his ugly, the defense looking like a flash mob while conceding that awful goal. That's tough but fair. We got Tim Sheldon with his RIFC in 3. No gymnasium run. I'll be honest, I don't know what that means, but
I think is it the we're going streaking? Is that
oh, there he is. Yep, Tim. Tim's very topical, very, very topical. So
I'll take any old school reference. It's my favorite movie.
it's so good. I'm gonna have to watch that tonight. But yeah, really, really appreciate everybody here. We went really long on this one. I know there's a lot to talk about. A lot of therapy to be had, especially after a tough loss. But yeah, Andrew, anything you wanted to make sure was added to this episode?
No, I think we adequately covered it. I mean, it's tough coming back week after week and just having the same talking points over and over. So I'm hoping that they give us more, positive news to talk about. And as I said in our pre-show thing here, I feel like I've been the Tie Talk Grim Reaper because I've had no good results.
We have to make sure we get you on for a win. Like next time we win, you got to get on here.
Yeah,
no matter what.
But yeah, I mean,
you can't even have Timmy come on for wins. That's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So yeah, it's I'm just hoping we have more different things to talk about in very near future because it's just been a lot of the same.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a wish, it's that we're talking about a game where we scored 1 or 2 goals, which is I'm asking for the bare minimum at this point, that were like goals that could be scored in a normal game. The Tampa game was fun, but those are not goals that you can rely on. I would love 3 goals, and I'm like, wow, those were well worked, and those were things that we could replicate game after game.
Yeah, that's what we're all hoping for. Until that starts to happen, I'm just always going to be reluctant to think that this team's on the verge of really turning things around and getting to where we think they should be based on the talent that they have.
Brother, I couldn't agree more, but yeah, so we turn our attention to next Saturday. The Tide head to, what do you know, Pittsburgh, to face the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the Jägermeister Cup. Will we finally score a goal against Pittsburgh? Who knows? But that'll wrap things up for this one. Just a reminder that Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media content. Also, have to shout out the blog at tidetalkri.com. Andrew always contributes. I dip my pen every once in a while, but shout out to Timmy and Matt especially, who do an awesome job on there. Please go check their stuff out, whether it's a sad game, a happy game. Matt with his Riptide report, Timmy with his player ratings, and then Matt with his pre-match essentials are absolutely crushing it. It is the best place for Rhode Island FC news, so please check it out. But I've been your host, Ryan, tonight, and a big thank you for Andrew for joining me. I know it was a little short notice, but we did it, and I really appreciate it. You did a good job teaming me up. I didn't send you a lick of slides beforehand. You did a great job, so thank you, Andrew, as always.
Next time, we'll try not to steal too much of your content in the future. So
I mean, if I ever preview it beforehand, I was like 8:26. I'm finalizing the colors and stuff. But most importantly, thank you for everyone in the chat and who joined live. And yeah, we'll see you all next time. For me and for Andrew Quadros, as always, up the Tide.
Up the Tide.